my name is Oksana. I'm a student of British School of Art and Design, and the question will be, I think everyone in this room and in the world knows you as a very popular and successful product designer, but have you ever had a failure in your career? And if yes, can you tell us how you moved on and what helps you to move on?
So,
thank you.
Failure is a good question. It's a super good question. What we try to do with Ronan somehow is to be popular, not as a person, but as a production. At the end, if we choose product design, my brother always say a chair is like a pop song, and what they want to say by this is a chair, a teacup, a TV is meant to be everywhere for everyone, that nobody even noticed. So at the end, we want our things to be replicated and exist in the world. The thing is, for that, you go through, of course, a selling process. And selling product is something which is incredibly complicated. You could ask to the people of Vitra or some of the people that are here, and there is a certain number of time in which you need to accept some compromise. You need to deal with some compromise. So, as a failure or not, I can't tell. Sometimes I just hate some shops I see where I see some of my product. But if I would refuse them, the thing wouldn't be accessible. So yeah, if there is a failure, it can be there. Sometimes I don't feel totally at ease. I don't feel totally at ease in a shop, while I don't feel totally at ease in a gallery with limited edition. I have to say for myself, I hate buying things for myself. I come from a quite. I come from the countryside in the west of France. All my grandparents were peasant and things like this. I couldn't buy a sofa I've been designing. I find it too expensive. It's just so I have a certain failure inside this. I think now the world is super complicated. If you really want to exist and change the things, you need to compromise partially. You need to live with this compromise and try to do the best in this situation.
Hello, my name is Sergey. I'm an interior designer. I have two questions, if I may. First, what is your success measure? Either is the product success as in the market, in the sales, or your internal vision as a designer. And second one, at the beginning of our talk, you told that the shape is not the main in a product. So, which is the initial thing for you? Either design of the product or functionality? Thank you.
So I go for the second question first. What I try to say is, the real goal of design is culture, and in a certain way, culture is embedding shape and function in the same thing, because I think that functionality depends a lot on what we've been learning. It means that I've got some young daughters, 6 and 3. My daughters now, they know nothing. So for example, my youngest daughter, she always wants to be naked. I don't know why. She doesn't like clothes, so she's taking her clothes out all the time. And for her, it's just normal. Everywhere, someone coming in, she comes totally naked, no issue. My second daughter, sometimes, I mean, now she's turning 6, so she's turning in the time in which she become a clever person. Before, she was still an animal, and as an animal, she many times, I remember, she was going under the table to read. She's just nice there, under the table. So we act with our surroundings depending of what we've been learning. So it means that if you don't take this into account, for the functionality, it will never work. So, for example, if we come back to the boat issue, I'm sure you could do a perfect boat out of glass. It must be possible. I mean, glass techniques are amazing. But then put anyone on a glass boat, it would say no. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna. So me, the more and more I feel like the deeper sensation and the deeper functionality things are hidden deeply inside culture. And in a certain way, I try to reveal them, find them. I don't even know where they are. So it's why I say when we are starting about something, in a certain way, we start about functionality and technicity, because we just want to start to make. And often when we make, sometimes we just see something that is more evident than something else. And at this time, we go for this evident thing. We go for, because evidence sometimes has a more, in a way, cultural weight, and that is the time the function and the design of it become much stronger. So, yeah. And for the second question, me and Ronan, we are super happy of working in different fields. So we are happy of having some projects that are quite different, taking different situation. But one of them that I like especially is Alcove Sofa, which I showed before, because this one has been generating an incredible amount of, it's not exactly copy, but it just became something that a lot of people find in relevant, this kind of raised the sofa about furnishing space. And so the sign that there is so many kind of typologies that are exactly the same, to me is a success, a kind of popular success I was meaning before. And next to it, there is also slow chair. By the way, it's also for Vitra, sorry for that, but there could be some other slow chair, which is something that I find super well designed. It's quite expensive. I mean, there is no way to make it so cheap. I don't know if I will find it. What I like is that it has a lot of flavor. It speaks a lot about comfort. It's super nice, but also it's made with a super limited amount of material. It's super light, and if you take one screw, everything falls down. So I quite like the super minimum, but also being generous.
I have rather easy question. As I've noticed, you are rather ambitious. So I have a question, what do you dream about? I want to explain why I ask you. Usually when we tell others what we dream about, we are getting more closer to our dream. So it's interesting, what do you dream about?
It's a good question. I'm dreaming about getting organized. Because I'm starting to get really jealous of Jonathan Ive in Apple. Me and Ronan, we decided to have a small independent studio. And also we decided to belong to no one, to be fully independent. So we are making quite a number of projects that are quite separated. In a certain way, we learn a lot from each project, that they help each other to grow, but it has a big limitation, a real one. I think if you start to say industry is an amazing tool, then you need to get super concentrate about it. You need to try to understand everything and make it better. And if you look at Apple, I think, like, I would say for the past 10 years, they didn't change anything. They had exactly the same design, exactly. But every year, they just make it thinner and thinner, more and more well done, more battery, more everything. And once I met Jonathan Ive and I told him, I'm sure you forbid yourself of having new ideas. And he didn't really answer, but make a kind of smile. And I think there is something like this. If they want to go to the ultra performance, you should think only of these things, not have another idea, and refine it all the time. Like then saying the industry is like one orchestra, and you're playing exactly the same piano play all the time in order to play it on another level. So I would love to be able to focus, but I know I'm dead for it. I can't. This I would love, but I'm not sure it will work.
Меня зовут Александра, я выпускница Британской высшей школы дизайна. Хотела узнать, почему вы стали дизайнером? Возможно, какая-то ситуация в детстве у вас случилась. И второй вопрос. И второй вопрос.
Все вспомнили свои ситуации в детстве.
С каким предметом вы характеризуете себя? Именно либо уже созданным, либо который вы бы создали. Именно вас характеризует. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Why I became a designer is we have a slightly different story with me and Ronan. Ronan, when he was 13, 14 years old, decided to go for applied art studies. And we come from a family background that has no link with art, architecture, anything. So in a certain way, my parents, they were slightly afraid that we would go into art. So probably applied art was something that was more convenient to them. But me, it was slightly different. Me, I've been following normal studies. Actually, I've been having a kind of scientific degree when I was 18 years old, more about mathematics and things like this. And in the same time, I was at the time listening to indie music, you know, Pixies, Radiohead, Joy Division, Ride. I mean, you can find quite many of them. And I was, for them, that was a real thing, music. But especially this kind of music, you would play with a guitar, kind of band, and all those bands, what they were doing is, you find out if you take Joy Division, for example, which is super important, or even Nirvana, none of them are good instrumental player. None of them have a real sense of music in a high level, but they were making all the time. They were also making, at the beginning, all their own graphics, all their own things, in a super independent way. And me, I was also fascinated by this independent way. So to me, Nirvana had an incredible importance on the world. Kurt Cobain's been really making a lot. So I came partially from this. Then I've been studying in art school, and then so I was studying fine arts, painting, sculpting, all those things. And once I entered into a design project, then there was a lot about meaning of reality, plus also there was a lot of making things together. So it comes from that. And one product I like more than another, I did before with Slow Chair, and I don't know if I have some, well, there is many I like, but for personal reason.
Okay. My name is Kate, and my question is inspiration. What's your source of inspiration, and what do you do when we are all people and we have bad mood sometimes or anything else? So what's your own way to return back to work?
Especially because I think one of the real thing in the work, especially when things become more and more industrial, is something which has to do with a certain meditation. What I mean by this is that beginning of a project, I don't know. I think me and Ronan, we have most of the time some idea that we try to think about reality, and we say, okay, what can we do inside reality? So most of the time, things are driven by something which is a kind of obvious thinking. But again, that is what you put on the sketchbook, or what you put in a mock-up, or you spin things. But the real process is to start this, and then to make its, again, cultural value grow, become something else. And at the same time, when you want things to go inside reality, you get confronted to then many parameters that comes. And something that is quite special is that now most of every object that surrounds us more reflects the parameters of the maker than the parameters of the user. Is that inside an object, there are many things that are done for the industry. While most of the chairs are stackable, most of the cheap chairs are stackable, it's because it's an issue of logistic. If for the company to store them, to put them in a truck, to deliver on site, there is many parameters that just belong to the issue of making. Then there is many parameters that belongs to the issue of the user, and as a designer you learn a lot of those parameters, but you can't sum them up. You can't find a good way to really understand what do they mean. Most of the time when I'm drawing something, I have a kind of a vision which is a little bit like a cloud. I have the impression it will work, but I'm not sure. I just have the impression. And if someone would start to me, so explain me why you have the impression it's right, I can't. I just see the parameters, but I can't sum them up.
Is this intuition?
Yeah, it's a certain intuition, or it's certain things that are linked, but not in a super linear way. And one way to try to make this intuition better is to wait, draw again, think about it. We permanently redraw the same thing, redo the same thing, and somehow I think it's something which is slightly like meditation. It's just that because in many cases there is nothing that can help making a decision from A to B. At least nothing which is rational, nothing that would make you make the decision into a thing. So again, design is a process of you need to make less all the time. So most of the time your initial idea, you need to cut it into parts and keep only the strong part. So you can't spend your life in bringing new things. The real thing is spend your life in taking things out. So it's making again and again the same thing is one way to do this process.
My name is Maria. I'm a student of Bauman Technical University, and we know that every object should cause the emotions of buyers, of viewers, but we sometimes forget about the emotions of creators. So you just said that sometimes you have your inside feeling of something, but you can't explain it. And what do you feel in a moment of creative searches, something like that? That you said that you made a form of chair for 4 years, but what did you feel in this moment, the moments of search?
I think we do two things at the same time. First, we know that we're gonna start a project, and most of the time we don't do anything for 6 months. We just kind of speak about it. We don't draw anything. We just, which is a way to get in a certain empathic relationship with the field, because you can't. It would be ridiculous inside product design to resist the field. You have to learn about what is the orchestra you're gonna play with, and every company is a different orchestra. But in the same time, you can't really listen to the company, because if the company would send a brief, then it would say, we want something cheap, we want that, here is a cardboard size. I mean, nothing that helps you to have any contemporary vision. So it's why we look a little, but not too much. And during 6 months for discussion, we try to intuitively define the field. And then we draw, we make a number of mock-ups, we make a number of things, but then it always happens sometimes that in a half a second you have the impression, you have the vision. And then I need to explain to my brother, and it takes a long time because he doesn't understand anything.
And so what did you feel in the moment when the real object is constantly matches your mind?
What I feel when we release one object is that one issue for me is I know I can make it better when it's finished. That is something that is super painful. Everybody here, you will, I mean, either you all know that or either you will all learn that. The problem is that when you just finish, you've been learning so much, you know, or you can do better the same thing. But most of the time, if it's industrial production, you can't just say, oh, change the tool, or make it again. So sometimes, again, I feel in a strange relation to the project when it's finished.
It's not a question, it's just I want, maybe you know the answer. When your brother makes lectures or presentations, what he says about you?
I think he says I'm very boring.
Вот что вы подарите в этот Новый год своему брату?
I have, it's not exactly the answer to your question. It's a story. When I was a kid, we were always every Sunday visiting my grandparents, and on the way back, often we were visiting the different families, related people. And we used to go in a house. There was a house that has a two roof side, a typical house like this, up. But the house had two entrances. There was one entrance on one side and one entrance on the other side. In front of the house, there was a big parking place where you could play and things like this. There were no fence in the middle, but as a kid, when we were playing, we were always staying on one side. So I was visiting actually the aunt of my mother in this place, and I never knew who were the other family living on the other side. I just have some remember of being a kid, like, you know, you get asleep and they put you in the car, and I remember some shadows of the other people on the other side, like saying hello or something like this. I didn't know. And so the husband of the aunt of my mother, he was a woodmaker. And my mother, when me and Ronan started to work a lot together, she said, "Do you know who was the other family on the other side of the house?" I said, "No." And she told me, "You know, it is the twin brother of the woodmaker." And they were working together. So that is what we live, me and Ronan. We are so deeply engaged into work that sometimes we love each other, sometimes we are ready to fight. So out of the studio, we rarely see each other. We can't. It's just, so Christmas present, I don't give a shit.
Если нужно проводить какие-то сложные или несложные инженерные расчеты при проектировании, вы вот сами это делаете или обращаетесь к инженерам, и на каком этапе, и вот как это вообще происходит, расчеты и прочее?
Okay, so I think we've been learning a lot through the process. When at the beginning of our career, we were super young, so we were making a lot of errors, but we always find it natural that the engineer would say, "You're wrong," so we were starting again. So step by step, we got more and more efficient regarding this. So actually now the real thing to be able to discuss in a fine way with engineering is to make 3D modeling. That is super important for all of you. You need to master 3D modeling. That is really, really important. This chair we were speaking about, the vegetal chair, this one, we've been really making some of the last final file in our studio, and that is super difficult to do. It takes a really, really long time, but that is the way to discuss with the engineer. Because when you arrive to such kind of things, they will say, "Okay, but the feet is a little bit too weak. You need to make it slightly better. That's not exactly the right section." Okay, that is what they express. The best way is if you can model it again and send it again. And now for engineering, they make more and more virtual engineering. It means that you make a 3D model. On the 3D model, then they will apply the real material properties. They would say it's made out of plastic, it's made out of that, and then they will apply they will apply the stress on it. So the real thing with engineers is that to be able to answer to them. But of course, you're not answering with numbers, you're answering with shapes. So it's about knowing something and be able to learn and try to propose something. That is super important. And the thing that is super important is that always answer with your own background. It means that engineers, they look all their life to technical drawing, to 3D model and things like this. And if you send them a 3D model, most of the time you don't put everything inside. I mean, it's less good at what you do. So never forget to send also an hand drawing with it. The hand drawing, they never manage this. Sometimes the hand drawing is providing much more subtlety and information. And sometimes don't try to answer with reality. you need to answer with subtlety to engineers. That is the way to make them progress.
The first one is about your home and your preferences about design and about furniture precisely in your home, maybe some brands or designers. And the second question has nothing to do with design. You made quite a lot of comparisons with food during your talk, and I just wondered what is your favorite cuisine or maybe your favorite food? Thank you.
So what I have to say for myself, what I value the more is a sign of times. My home, I live in an old Parisian flat, so it has, you know, the old floor, the thing. So we've been renovating it, but trying to keep things that are natural. So I never believe the kind of full contemporary environment. Most of the time I find them so boring. That's why also me and Ronan, we never design interiors, we design products. So it means that we always imagine that we design something that will go into a more complex world. And I find sometimes so dry and so wrong, the full white something, you know, and everything has been designed in one shot by one person. So my home is try to collect things, and what I have in my home, which is a little different, is I was saying one of the more important value you can find inside one object is a cultural value. One of the way of raising the cultural value much more to raise the weight of the object is to do it by yourself. So in my home, I've got a number of things that my father made for me. My father is a terrible woodmaker. He makes them super bad. But there is a weight inside it that are amazing. And me, since my daughters have born, I've been often building them some toys quickly. Just a piece of wood I cut at the studio and make something out of it. And those things have an incredible value. I try my home to collect a certain number of things. And then I forgot the second part of your question. Food. Yes, in a way, yeah. But food is a little bit the same. I have to say I love to cook every day. It's just on basic day. I find this. I used to paint a lot when I was at school, and I find that cooking has a little bit of the same experience. You know, it is something that is quick, that is generating incredible flavor and things, but that is gonna disappear quickly. And then for food. It's true that I don't like the old French cuisine, the thing with the sauce and things like that. For this I find, because the old French cuisine is something that is actually super bourgeois. Nobody would ever made this. And you find that when you go in Italy, for example, there is the amazing cuisine. It's just a so popular way, but so clever. I mean, things that are made quickly with a lot of taste, but coming from a real popular background. And then, of course, Asian food is partially on top of everything. What is quite nice, I think, with Asian food is it is a way of having plates and things that are a little bit killing the old organization of a dinner, you know, the first plate, the main course, something like this, which I find also a little tiring as a system.
И у меня такой вопрос к вам. Если бы у вас была такая возможность вернуться на много-много лет назад, ну и что-то такое маленькое сказать себе, молодому, какой бы совет вы сами себе дали вот тогда? Имея вот этот опыт и этот путь, который вы прошли сейчас на данный момент?
Travel more, see more of the life. I think one of the thing is we are in the time of industry. One of the more important consequences of the time of industry is standardization. That is a real big thing. Is that everything is the same everywhere. It's one of the biggest results of capitalism. Why they say, for example, now that some molecules are making cancer, they always used to exist as molecules. The problem is now, for example, for biscuits, they use a lot of palm oil. And all the industry just said, wow, it's just wonderful because it doesn't burn, it's not that, it's cheap. Everybody use it. So from 0 to 10, you just find 20 years ago, this didn't even exist, or maybe once in your life you would eat something like this. And suddenly, it just become one of the all you eat the more. So industry is just making that many things become the same and become super visible. And today, when I arrived into the airport, was again the same thing, Starbucks and all those things. I mean, that's everywhere in the world. I mean, it's the same format everywhere. So traveling, walking is also, I mean, living the cities is one way to forget that the world is, one way to see that the world is more diverse than its actual visible production.
Добрый вечер. Скажите, пожалуйста, какой материал вы считаете самым перспективным для работы сегодня или интересным, и почему? Спасибо.
It's complicated. Depends of the background. One of the big questions today is: do we really want to make handmade work or not? Is that I think the new materials that should be interesting is material which is related to hand making at home somehow. More conceiving, because on some end we are a little bit we worry about plastic, we worry about industry, we worry about the things, but do we really want to work in a factory in making stitching all the time, for example, or assembly of wood? I mean, I don't think our generation is made for that. So personally, myself, I'm looking quite a lot about robotics, also artificial intelligence. I think there might be some material or product which are, I would like that you could draw a shelf, but really like drawing, you know, not thinking about it, but drawing it. And I feel like probably just developing apps and things like this and thinking some simple assembly thing, you could prepare thing, you know, it could be much more, but most of the time now, for example, if you buy a IKEA shelving, a big one, when you are assembling it, you're just afraid. You're afraid of losing a screw, you're afraid of making it wrong, you're afraid of being in the wrong place. So most of what you think about is don't make a mistake. And actually, you should be not at all into this process. You should be more into a process in which you would look your room, say, what is the best place to have this shelf? What should I do? How should I live? So to me, materials are highly related to the process, the way you assemble, and I think in a kind of end process, but which is not exactly the industrial process of bzz, 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 like this.
Qu'est-ce qui vous fait le plus vibrer dans le design et surtout dans le process de fabrication?
Oh là là. I really see like I sometimes imagine that a factory would be like an orchestra, and actually now it's not really like an orchestra. I think the process of production could be much more, in a way, magical if you would assemble things. And you're really right of asking the question is when I say I would like to be like Jonathan Ive. I mean, some people, they highly concentrate on everything, and they manage to really change things. Me and Ronan, we work on a smaller scale. If you compare to music, then it's more about quatuor of 4 strings. The thing that I am the more happy is most of the time it can happen that we make a small mock-up. Especially this is happening a lot for sofa. A lot for sofa, the people that are developing the sofa, they are women that's been most of the time working in the factory, really stitching and things like this. And those ones, they are not engineers, and even it's a little bit of a strange situation in which sometimes they don't even want to tell the advice because I would be the artist or I don't know what. But we make some mock-ups at the studio. They are badly done, but in a certain way they exactly understand what we feel about stitching. And those times they're so valuable when they just see the thing and they make a smile because they see it's badly done, and they say, I'm just gonna make it. And you leave for 30 minutes, and after they come back and they're just building an incredible things with the right flavor. That is a nice time when this happens. So, thank you everyone.
Ervan, thank you very much for your talk.